Before we start, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. Also, can you please tell me where and what time you're watching? I was dead tired after a 10-hour shift and a mountain of adulting. All I wanted was silence. My name's Mia, I'm 24, and I just moved into a rental house in Silver Lake with 3 of my old college friends, Rachel, Jenna, and Lena. Thought it would be fun. Like a grown-up sleepover. It wasn't. What started as movie nights and shared takeout turned into passive-aggressive sticky notes, slammed doors, and cold wars over who left hair in the shower drain. The worst of it? Rachel. Always Rachel. She had this way of walking into a room and making the air feel 2 degrees colder. Sharp tongue, shorter fuse, and a superiority complex that didn't fit in our modest 2-story rental. Everything I did seemed to offend her. How I folded towels, how I monopolized the shower. Ironic, since she spent 40 minutes in there every morning. Even the way I laughed. At first, I tried to be the peacekeeper. But over time, I realized she wasn't just annoyed by me, she hated me. No real reason. I just existed wrong in her world. Things came to a boil when the girls started planning a weekend trip to Miami. Flights, bikinis, playlists. It was all they talked about. I tried to be involved, threw out a few suggestions, but Rachel's little digs kept landing like paper cuts. "You sure you can afford it, Mia?" she asked one night, sipping wine like she was in a soap opera. "Wouldn't want you stuck eating gas station snacks while we're sipping cocktails." I forced a smile, but it stung. The worst part? Jenna and Lena didn't say anything. Maybe they were just used to her. Or maybe they agreed, so I backed out. A week before the trip, I told them I had to work, which was a lie. Jenna looked disappointed. Lena gave me a soft, understanding nod. Rachel, she didn't even pretend. "Figures," she muttered. Not even, looking up from her phone. More room in the suite. Friday came, and they left around 6. I watched from the upstairs window as their Uber pulled away. The silence afterward was unreal. I microwaved some popcorn, wrapped myself in a throw blanket, and queued up old Friends episodes. No drama, no whispers behind my back, just peace. Until the knock. It was loud, 3 sharp raps, like whoever it was wanted to punch through the door. I paused the show, heart skipping. The clock read 10:56 p.m. Who the hell knocks this late? I tiptoed to the door, phone in one hand, the other hovering near the deadbolt. I peeked through the peephole and felt my stomach twist. Nate. Rachel's on-again, off-again boyfriend. Arrogant, smug, always a little too loud. The kind of guy who speaks in opinions, not conversation. I never liked how he looked at me, like he was sizing me up. I unlocked the door but left the chain fastened. "What do you want?" "Rachel's not here," I said, keeping my voice firm. "I know," he said, leaning casually against the frame. "That's why I came." Something in me pulled tight. His voice was smooth, too smooth. "You shouldn't be here, Nate." Y'all leaned in closer, just enough that I could smell the hint of whiskey on his breath. "You know," he said, eyes scanning me like I was a page in a book. "You're really beautiful, Mia." I blinked. The hell? Was he drunk? Joking? I let out a dry laugh, more to break the tension than anything. "Okay, Sirach." He didn't explain, didn't say where it came from, just stood there watching me. Something in my gut screamed at me to shut the door, lock it, call someone, but I hesitated, and Nate noticed. "Yeah. Okay, go home, Nate," I said, my voice tight. But he didn't move. "I'm serious." I kept my tone sharp. "Rachel doesn't even appreciate you, but I do. We could have some fun." My stomach flipped. Was he actually saying that? This was Rachel's boyfriend, her boyfriend. And he was standing at my door, smirking like this was some casual hookup. "You're disgusting," I snapped. "Not interested." I started to shut the door, hard, when his voice stopped me cold. "You sure about that?" Then he pulled out his phone and held it up to the peephole. My breath caught. It was a photo, blurry at first, but unmistakable. Me, naked. I stared, hoping, praying I was hallucinating. But as the image came into focus, I saw everything. The angle, the background, the sheets I'd changed last week. My room, my bed. A cold sweat crawled across my neck. Where the hell did you get that? My voice cracked. Nate just smirked. Michael sent them to me. Michael, my ex. We'd broken up 6 months ago, and I already knew he was a manipulative piece of shit. But this? I never sent him photos like that. Ever. Which meant he took them, without my consent. I felt my hands tremble. My knees, too. "What do you want?" I said, barely above a whisper. Nate leaned in, voice smooth as poison. "It's simple. Let me in, and I'll keep this between us. But if you don't..." He tilted the phone toward me, his thumb hovering over the screen. "I'll send them to Rachel, to Jenna, Lena, maybe even your folks. Hell, why not the whole damn internet?" Froze. It didn't matter that I hadn't done anything wrong. People believe what they want to believe, especially when they already hate you. And Rachel? She'd never listened to me. She wanted to believe the worst. I had 2 options: let him in, or let him ruin me. I stared at him, let the fear settle, let the rage boil. Then I took a deep breath and swung the door wide open and punched him. Hard. His phone flew out of his hand and hit the porch with a clatter. He stumbled backward, clutching his nose. "You bitch!" I slammed the door through the deadbolt, the chain, every damn lock we had. My hands were shaking. I grabbed my phone, ready to call my sister, someone, anyone. Names, threats, accusations. They were saying they'd send them to my parents, to anyone who'd look. I tried to type, to explain, but Rachel's next message cut through me. "Don't even try to lie. Nate told me everything. You threw yourself at him." I felt like I was suffocating. Then, like a flicker in the dark, I got an idea. I knew where Nate lived. And, if I played this just right, I could make him confess. I grabbed my keys, still shaking, and drove straight to his apartment. When he opened the door, his nose was still swollen and red, but he grinned like I was dessert. "I've been thinking," I said, chewing on my bottom lip, twirling my necklace. "Maybe you were right." His eyebrows lifted. "I mean, everyone already thinks I did it, so why not?" That disgusting grin spread across his face. "That's what I like to hear." I stepped closer, tilting my head. "But first," I whispered, "I need to know why." He blinked. "Why what? Why send the photos? Why destroy me?" At first he played dumb, but I kept pressing, smiling, teasing, acting interested, and finally he cracked. He spilled it, all of it. Michael had nothing to do with the photos. He never even saw them. Rachel had sent them to Nate herself. She had taken them, somehow, I don't even know how, and sent them to him. It had been her plan from the start. She wanted me out, humiliated, ruined. I had my phone recording in my jacket pocket the whole time. The second I got home, I sent the file to our group chat. Then to Rachel's parents, her boss, every mutual friend we had. Her world unraveled in hours. Her parents cut her off. Her boss fired her. Jenna and Lena, who finally saw the truth, kicked her out of the lease. She was stranded in Miami with no money, no job, no place to live. She called me, texted, emailed, begged, apologized. I never answered, because I wasn't scared of her anymore. People say revenge isn't the answer. Maybe they're right. But one thing's for sure. Rachel never messed with me for that summer like it was scorched into my memory. Thick, breathless heat that made the air feel heavy even before noon. Our neighborhood in Rajasthan was the kind where everyone knew everyone, and people left their doors unlocked. During the day, nothing bad ever really happened there. Or, that's what I thought back then. I was 12 that summer, just old enough for my parents to trust me home alone while they were off working. My dad, Ramesh, was a contractor, usually out the door before dawn, his steel tiffin clanking in his bag. Mom worked long shifts at Sheetal Cafe down the main road, pouring chai and plating samosas for cranky regulars. My older brother Jai had gone to stay over at his best friend's for the weekend, so the house was mine. I didn't mind being alone. In fact, I kinda liked it. I'd sleep in till almost noon, pour myself a bowl of chacos, and camp out at our wheezing old desktop in the living room. Most days I'd play Minecraft or get lost in rabbit holes of strange YouTube videos, haunted places, conspiracy theories, abandoned cities, stuff that gave me goosebumps but kept me coming back. It was sometime in the afternoon when I finally stood up, cracking my back after hours of sitting in front of the screen. I was hungry again, so I wandered toward the kitchen. Our house was a split level, the kind where you walk in the front door and choose between going upstairs or down into the basement. The kitchen sat at the back, with a wide window right above the sink that looked out into our backyard. As I passed the table, something caught my eye. A flicker of movement outside. I paused. Just at the edge of my vision, someone was walking through our yard. I leaned closer to the window. It was a man in a faded construction vest and a blue baseball cap. He moved slowly, way too slowly, cutting across the yard toward the back of our house. My stomach tensed. Then I remembered, sometimes the gas meter guy came around to check the readings. My dad had mentioned not to panic if I ever saw someone back there. Meter way libaya hotehain. Don't worry. I breathed out, feeling silly for getting spooked, but something still felt off. The guy wasn't carrying a clipboard or tools, no bag, no ID badge, just his arms swinging loose at his sides as he crept closer, like he was trying to move without making a sound. That wasn't normal. He stopped at the basement window. I froze. Now, the real meter guy. He'd glance at the gauge, jot something, down and be gone in under a minute. But this man just stood there. Still, unmoving. I grabbed a half-opened bag of Kurkure off the counter, not because I was hungry, but to make it look like I was doing something normal. My eyes stayed glued to him. 1 minute passed, then another. He didn't move an inch. That weird, twisty feeling in my stomach had turned into something worse now. A crawling tension in my arms, like my body knew something my brain hadn't caught up with yet. I backed away from the window, slow and careful, keeping myself out of sight. Maybe he was just double-checking something. Maybe he was on the phone. I wanted to believe that, but something deep in my gut, some animal instinct I didn't yet have words for, told me to stay low and stay quiet. I crept to the hallway window. That faced the backyard from a sharper angle, barely pulling the curtain aside. My breath hitched. He wasn't looking at the meter. He was bent forward, peering directly into the basement window like he was trying to see if someone was inside. His head tilted slightly, and I could tell from the way he stood, shoulders tense, feet planted, that this wasn't a routine check. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. I thought about tiptoeing downstairs, getting a closer look. But something told me, if he sees you, it'll change everything. So I stayed hidden, silent, watching. And then, I screwed up. As I stepped back, my elbow clipped a soda can on the counter. It hit the floor with a sharp clatter, loud enough to shatter the silence. The man's head snapped up. We locked eyes for maybe half a second. Then he moved. Fast. He didn't run, but his pace was urgent, almost too controlled, as he made his way out of our yard, heading toward the side gate. I ran to the front window, peeking through the sheer curtain. He didn't look back, just kept walking down the road like he was late for something. I stood there frozen, heart jackhammering in my chest. My hands were shaking. I kept asking myself, was that normal? Did I just overreact? By the time Jai and my parents got home around 7, I'd talked myself out of saying anything. What would I even say? That a guy might have looked into our basement or dinner? The only light left in the house was the dim yellow lamp in the living room. I reached for it, ready to turn it off, but hesitated. My fingers hovered over the switch. That same unease from earlier crept back, curling in my stomach like cold smoke. Shaking it off, I started downstairs. The basement always gave me the creeps at night. It had this cramped, half-finished living space you had to walk through before reaching the bedrooms. Tonight it felt worse, heavy, pitch dark. I could barely make out the couch or the TV stand. I reached for the light switch, then stopped. There was someone at the window. I didn't see him at first, just a shape, a subtle movement. Then the moonlight shifted and my blood turned to ice. It was the same man. He stood in the exact same spot from earlier, face shadowed beneath the cap, but this time I could see his hands. He was doing something. His fingers were working, at the latch, trying to open it. I froze. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Then, as if some deeper part of me took control, I slammed my palm against the switch. The basement lights exploded on. For a second, we just stared at each other. He didn't move, like a deer caught in headlights. Then, in a blur, he turned and bolted into the darkness. The moment he was gone, my body snapped out of it. I spun around and tore up the stairs, skipping 2 at a time. My legs were shaking, barely holding me up. I burst into my parents' room, banging on the door like my life depended on it. "Papa, Mummy," I choked out. "There was a man at the basement window. He was trying to get in. He was trying to get in." My dad was on his feet in an instant. He grabbed the old cricket bat from behind the door, the one he always kept just in case. Mom was right behind him, face pale, clutching her dupatta tight around her shoulders. Dad stormed down the stairs while I followed close behind, my whole body shaking. But the man was gone. Just vanished. Except for one thing. The basement window had been pried half open. The wood frame was splintered, bent outward. The only reason he hadn't gotten in was because of a rusted old nail wedged in the corner, something my dad had hammered in years ago to stop it from rattling. We, too, called the police. They came, took a report, asked questions. But there were no cameras, no real witnesses. All I could tell them was, he wore a vest, like the construction kind, and a blue cap. That was it. He never came back. But for weeks I didn't sleep. I moved upstairs to the living room, couch, too scared to even look at the basement door. Every creak in the walls made my stomach twist. Every breeze felt like breath on the back of my neck. I still think about it sometimes. What would have happened if I hadn't knocked over sense? He hadn't turned it on. He never forgot to turn things off. His stomach sank. Every step toward the stairs felt like stepping deeper into something he couldn't explain. His breath came in short, quiet gasps as he crept forward. When he reached the top of the staircase, he stopped, frozen. There was someone on his couch. The flickering TV light danced across the stranger's face. A man, maybe mid-50s, sat hunched forward slightly. Long, oily hair hung around a gaunt face, and his clothes looked like they'd been soaked and left to dry, on a corpse. His arm rested along the back of the couch like he'd been living there for days. He wasn't watching the screen. He was waiting. As if sensing him, the man slowly turned his head and smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was slow, deliberate, like he was savoring Noah's fear. Something was deeply off about it, wrong in a way that bypassed logic and hit something primal. Then the man waved. Noah's body reacted before his brain did. He turned and ran. No thought, no hesitation, just pure survival. He sprinted down the hallway, vaulted the last few stairs and burst through the front door barefoot. The cold pavement stung as he bolted across the street, banging on his neighbor's door like a madman. It opened after a few seconds. "Noah." Mrs. Patel blinked, startled in her nightgown. "Call the police," he panted. "There's someone in my house." She froze only for a second before grabbing his arm and pulling him inside. "Stay here," she said sharply, already, dialing with trembling fingers. Noah turned to look through her front window, back toward his own home. The TV was off now, the living room lights, dark. By the time the police arrived, the man was gone. No signs of a break-in, no damage, nothing, missing, as if he'd never been there at all. Except Noah knew what he'd seen. He knew. But with nothing to prove it, no broken windows, no forced locks, no fingerprints, the officers chalked it up to something else. Probably just a homeless guy looking for a warm spot to crash, one of them had said with a shrug, already jotting down half-hearted notes. Noah wanted to believe that. He really did. But something about it didn't sit right. That man hadn't looked lost or desperate. He hadn't stumbled in like someone trying to survive the cold. He'd looked like someone who belonged there, like he was waiting. Noah didn't go back home that night. He lay curled on Mrs. Patel's couch, wide awake, listening to the creaks and groans of her old house. But it wasn't the noises that kept him up. It was the image of the man sitting calmly on his couch. The way he smiled, that lazy wave, like he had all the time in the world. Like he knew something Noah didn't. I felt too intentional, too still. By morning, the case was officially closed. No investigation, no follow-up. Back at his front door, Noah hesitated, keys in hand, staring at the threshold like something might still be lurking inside. When he finally stepped in, everything looked normal. The couch was untouched, the TV was off, but the air still felt wrong. He checked every lock. Front door, side windows, the tiny patio sliding glass, all secured. The cops said it was impossible for someone to break in without leaving a trace, and that's what unsettled him more than anything. There had been no trace. Over the next few days, Noah tried to convince himself it was over. He even told Sarah and Chris about it, joking about crackhead ghosts to make it all sound less real. But when night came, that sick feeling returned, that sense of eyes on his back. He started locking his bedroom door, kept his phone under his pillow, flashlight app ready. Every creak in the walls made him stop breathing. His sleep was light and broken. He'd wake up to the silence again and again. And silence like that. It wasn't normal. A week later, it happened again. 27 a.m. He woke with a start. No noise, just a heaviness that settled over him before his eyes even opened. His heart was already pounding, like his body knew something was off. Then, click. The unmistakable sound of the front door unlocking. He froze. This time, he didn't second-guess it. He snatched up his phone, hands trembling as he hit 911. 911, what's your emergency? There's someone in my house, he whispered. Again, please send someone now. Footsteps, slow, measured, just like before. The TV switched on. The low flicker of light cast long, familiar shadows against the wall. Then a voice, low, raspy, like sandpaper across glass. Noah, you left the door unlocked for me this time. His blood turned to ice. He didn't run. Not this time. I reached under his bed and pulled out the wooden bat his dad had given him before college. His grip tightened, knuckles white. He stepped into the hallway, forcing each breath to stay quiet. The walls seemed to close in with every step he took toward the stairs. His heart was so loud in his ears he was sure they could hear it downstairs. Reached the top of the staircase and looked down. The man was there, sitting again. Same place, same smile. But he wasn't alone. There was someone else now, standing halfway in the hallway, just beyond the reach of the TV's flicker. A second figure, taller still, watching him. Noah stepped back, mouth dry, grip tightening on the bat. Then, flicker. The light stuttered, once, twice, then darkness. The TV buzzed into static. By the time the police arrived, the front door was wide open. Noah was standing in the middle of his living room, bat clenched in both shaking hands. He didn't speak, just stared blankly ahead, eyes wide, face pale. Escape they'd been planning for months. My older sister had moved out the year before, and with college still a few months away, I had the house to myself. It was a 2-story place nestled deep in the woods, way off the main road. You had to drive nearly a mile down a dirt driveway just to get to it. The nearest neighbor was at least a 10-minute walk through thick trees and gravel roads. It was the kind of town where everyone sort of knew each other, or at least recognized familiar faces at the grocery store or gas station. The kind of place where people waved when they passed by, and kids still played barefoot in their yards. Crime was basically unheard of, or so I believed. It started on a Friday afternoon. I'd gone into town to pick up a few things: snacks, toothpaste, some dog food, even though we didn't have a dog anymore. I stopped at the old Shell station near the county line. The place looked like it hadn't changed since the 80s, flickering fluorescent lights, dusty windows, and a lone attendant behind the counter who looked half asleep. I was pumping gas when an old black Jeep Cherokee rolled up next to me. The paint was dull, slightly chipped near the hood, and the engine gave off a weird ticking sound as it idled. A man stepped out, maybe mid-40s, scruffy goatee, eyes sunken like he hadn't slept in days. He gave me a nod, not unfriendly, and moved toward his own pump. "Hey, excuse me," he said, stepping closer to my side of the pump. "You know how to get to the interstate from here?" His voice was polite, soft even, but there was something off about it. It made my skin crawl, like someone humming a lullaby at a funeral. I hesitated before answering. "Yeah, head back up Main. Take a right at the second light. That'll get you there." Instead of pulling out a phone like anyone else would, he took out a little notepad. The paper was yellowed and curled at the edges. He wrote slowly, deliberately, like he was trying to stretch the moment. "You from around here?" he asked, glancing up at me. I shifted uncomfortably. "Yeah, born and raised." He smiled thinly. "Nice town. Real quiet." His eyes didn't move from mine, just stared. Too long, too hard. Then, just as quickly, he thanked me, walked back to his Jeep, and drove off without a second glance. I tried to brush it off. Maybe he was just awkward. Maybe I was being paranoid. But when I pulled back onto the road a minute later, my stomach twisted into a knot. The black Jeep was behind me. I tried to be logical. Maybe he really was heading that way. Maybe it was just a coincidence. But when I reached my driveway, the long dirt path that led into the woods, and turned in, he kept driving straight, past it, in the exact opposite direction of the interstate. The very place he said he needed help getting to. I sat in my car for a second at the top of the driveway, watching his taillights vanish into the trees. Coincidence, that's all. I went inside, locked the door, and tried to push the weirdness out of my mind. That night, I had plans to meet up with a couple friends from school. Nothing major, just a movie and maybe some late-night snacks. I got dressed, grabbed my keys, and stepped outside. The moment the door closed behind me, I felt it. That quiet, not peaceful, but too still, like the woods were holding their breath. Was halfway to my car when I heard it, a soft rustling in the trees. I froze, heart ticking faster, probably a raccoon, maybe a deer. Then I heard it again, closer, a whisper in the leaves. "Kate." A man's voice, low, drawn out, coming from the trees. He said my name. I froze. Everyone around here knew my name. Small town life made that easy. But none of our neighbors lived close enough to just casually call out from the woods. If it were someone just trying to get my attention, why wouldn't they shout from the road or walk up the driveway like a normal person? Why the woods? My pulse kicked up. I turned on my heel and sprinted back to the house, slammed the door shut, and twisted the lock so hard it rattled. Inside, I tried to calm myself. My hand hovered over my phone for a second before I called my parents. They were halfway through their trip in Asheville, probably having wine on some patio. I didn't want to ruin that. Still, I told them I'd heard someone outside. Just didn't mention the part about them knowing my name. Probably just a neighbor screwing around, my dad said, half laughing. Someone may be looking for a lost dog. Yeah, a neighbor, in pitch-black woods, whispering my name. The next night, just as I was about to leave to meet friends again, it happened. Kate. That same voice, clearer, closer, more confident. This time I didn't wait or try to rationalize it. I bolted inside and locked every damn window and door in the house, my hands shaking so bad I could barely tap out 911. The dispatcher kept her voice calm. Mine cracked like thin glass. Cops showed up about 20 minutes later. 2 patrol cars, flashlights, the usual small-town slow response. They found nothing. Not a single boot print. Not a broken twig. Not even the usual animal tracks. One of the officers said, "Call again if anything else happens." They said that like it was. Cursing, the following night I had to work a late shift at the diner. By the time I got home, it was past midnight. The road to the house was pitch black, and my headlights barely pierced the shadows stretching between the trees. I pulled into the driveway, shut off the engine, and stepped out. The air was cold, too still. Not even the chirp of insects. Then, I heard it. A twig snapped, sharp and sudden. Not the kind of sound a squirrel makes, something heavier, measured, human. I turned slowly. Movement. A shadow shifting just past the tree line. Then a voice, clear and low, like he was standing, right behind me. "Don't call the cops on me again, cutie." I spun around. There he was. The man from the gas station, standing at the edge of the woods. No smile this time. Just watching me, eyes unreadable. I froze, my brain stuttering between fight and flight. My throat locked up. I couldn't scream. Then, I ran. I tore up the porch steps, nearly dropped my keys trying to get them in the lock. The second I got inside, I slammed the door shut, turned every bolt, and shoved a chair under the knob for good measure. Silence. Then, tap, tap, tap. A knock. Soft, rhythmic, on the front window. I didn't look. I backed away, grabbed my phone again, and dialed 911, barely able to speak. When the police arrived, again, there was nothing. No signs of him. No prints. No broken branches. Just nothing. This time, my parents begged me to go stay with someone. Anyone. I agreed. I packed a bag in 5 minutes. Before stepping outside, I peeked through the curtains. Nothing. Yard empty. Porch still. I ran to the car and unlocked it with a trembling thumb. But the second I sat down in the driver's seat, I knew something was wrong. A presence. Thick, heavy, like static in the air. I turned my head. He was right there, outside the driver's side window, wearing a black ski mask. Before I could move, he yanked on the door handle, locked. He raised his elbow and slammed it into the glass. A sharp crack spiderwebbed across the window. I screamed, slammed the car into drive. The tires slipped on the wet grass before catching traction. I swerved around the house, nearly hit the mailbox, and tore down the driveway. In my rearview mirror, I saw him standing at the tree line, watching, smiling. The police came again. More flashlights, more reports. But the same ending. No trace, no clues, no answers. I knew what was happening now. He'd been watching me, studying me. He knew my name, my house, my routine. He knew when our last relationship blew up in a mess of shouting matches and silent treatments. I figured some space would do me good. So, when I stumbled across this cheap little rental house just outside Pittsburgh, one of those places that looked like it hadn't been touched since the 70s, I signed the lease without thinking twice. It sat on a quiet street, kind of tucked between empty lots and old trees with bare, skeletal branches. The floors creaked with every step, and the wallpaper was a faded yellow that peeled in the corners. But the rent was dirt cheap, and I didn't mind the quiet. In fact, I welcomed it. I work from home, writing code for a cybersecurity firm, which basically means I don't have to talk to anyone unless I want to. Most days I don't. My routine was simple. Wake up, work, eat, sleep, maybe a late-night movie playing in the background just to drown out the silence. That silence, though, at night it wasn't peaceful. It felt thick, like it was pressing in on me. Still, the first few weeks were calm enough. Cold, sure, especially at night, but uneventful. Then the real winter rolled in. That kind of cold. It seeps into your bones, even with the heater groaning at full blast. The days got shorter, nights longer, and the house, despite being sealed up, felt off. Colder in a way I couldn't explain. That's when the weird stuff started. It began small. Just a soft creak in the hallway while I was in bed. Not like the house settling. No, this was rhythmic. Like weight shifting, slow steps, or the faint scratchy sound of something brushing against the wall outside my room. I tried brushing it off, told myself it was the wind, or maybe a raccoon in the attic. Old houses make weird noises, right? But after about a week, I started noticing something strange. The sounds, whatever they were, always came after midnight, always from the same direction, either the hallway or the kitchen. And worse, they were getting closer. Not louder. Closer. One night, God, I remember it clear as crystal. It was just past 2 a.m. I'd been half asleep, that drifting off kind of state where you're still vaguely aware of the room around you, and then I heard it. A whisper, not a creak, not a rustle. A whisper. Right outside my bedroom door. I shot up in bed, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. My first instinct was to grab my phone, but my hands were trembling so badly I fumbled it. I sat there frozen, forcing myself to listen. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I imagined it. Then, tap, tap, tap. 3 soft knocks on my door. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My bedroom door was locked, thank God. But that lock suddenly didn't feel like enough. I sat there, staring at the knob like it might turn on its own. The tapping stopped. Silence. And then, footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Moving away from my door. Fading down the hallway. I didn't sleep that night. Not a single minute. Just stared at the door until the first weak light of morning filtered through the blinds. As soon as the sun was up, I checked everything. Locks, windows, attic. Nothing was broken, nothing open. I even pulled up the footage from my security camera app. No alerts, no motion detected. Like whatever it was, had never even existed. I kept telling myself I was being paranoid, sleep-deprived. Maybe I'd just imagined that whisper. Maybe stress was finally catching up with me. I was dead wrong. It was Friday night. I was on the couch, zoned out in front of the TV with some half-finished takeout, when I heard a loud thud from the kitchen. Not a creak, not a pop. A deliberate, heavy thump, like something fell with intent. My heart jumped straight into my throat. I grabbed the closest thing that could pass as a weapon, the fireplace poker, and inched toward the kitchen. The lights were already on, but that didn't make me feel any safer. Everything looked normal. The dishes were where I left them. The back door was still bolted shut. But then I saw it. The kitchen knife. The one I'd left drying on the rack. Earlier, it was on the floor, but not just fallen. It was standing upright, tip stabbed deep into the wooden floor, perfectly vertical, like someone had planted it there on purpose. A chill spread across my spine, cold and sharp. I bent down, slowly pulled the knife out, set it back in the sink. I double-checked the locks again, every single door, every window. Then I tried to shake it off. Maybe it slipped somehow, maybe vibrations. Still, as I turned to walk out, I caught movement, just a flicker, reflected in the microwave door. A shadow. It shifted, like someone stepping back out of frame. That night I barricaded my bedroom door with a chair and my dresser. I didn't care how crazy it looked. I needed something between me and whatever that was. By Saturday, I was trying to convince myself I was unraveling. Lack of sleep, isolation, my mind playing tricks. I even called Josh, my best friend from college, and joked that my new place was haunted. Man, get a dog, he laughed. At least if you're losing it, you won't be doing it alone. That night, I woke up to the sound of footsteps. Inside my room. Not in the hallway. Inside. I was frozen. Not metaphorically, literally paralyzed. My body wouldn't respond. All I could do was breathe, and even that felt impossible. The steps were soft, bare feet on hardwood, but they dragged a little, like whoever or whatever was walking had something wrong with them. The sound stopped right next to my bed. I squeezed my eyes shut and gripped the blanket like a lifeline. I didn't want to see. I couldn't. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it might burst through my chest. Then, right by my ear, so close I felt the breath, came a whisper. Not yet. That was it. Black. 1 second I was paralyzed in fear. The next I was jolting awake, drenched in sweat. The sun was up. I had no memory of falling back asleep. I sat up slowly, chest tight, and then I saw it. The closet door, wide open. I never leave it open. I didn't hesitate after that. Sunday morning, I drove straight to a hardware store and dropped way too much money on security cameras. I didn't care how it looked. I needed to see what was happening. I set one up in the hallway, another in the living room, and one right outside my bedroom. That night I stayed up, watching the live feeds on my laptop. I told myself I wouldn't see anything, that I'd wasted money on ghosts. At 2:37 a.m., the hallway camera pinged. Movement detected. I clicked the feed. There it was, a shadow, tall, thin, gliding down the hallway. It didn't walk. It moved like smoke, like it floated. But the moment it neared the staircase, the screen glitched. Lines of static cut through the image, and the feed went black for 10 whole seconds. When it came back, the hallway was empty. Then the living room cam beeped. I switched feeds. My hands were shaking. There, in the center of the room, a figure, almost human, but wrong. Its limbs were too long. Its arms dangled past its knees. The head was tilted at a sick angle, like it had been broken. It just stood there, still, facing the camera, watching me. Then, blackout. The screen cut to black. Before I could react, I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. Not on the front door. Not on a window. At my bedroom door. I slammed the laptop shut and grabbed the aluminum bat I kept next to the nightstand. My chest was tight, breath coming in short gasps. The knocking continued, slow, rhythmic, almost playful. That was it. I was done waiting. I threw the barricade aside and yanked the door open, swinging the bat hard into the hallway, only to hit nothing but air. Empty, but I felt it, behind me. Too late. Something invisible slammed into me. I flew back like I'd been tackled by a linebacker, crashed into the wall so hard the drywall cracked. I tried to scramble, but my legs were yanked, dragged. I kicked, thrashed, but whatever had me wasn't human. Its grip was icy cold, like dead flesh. As I was pulled down the hallway, I looked up and there it stood, at the end of the hall. Tall, still, watching. Then darkness again. I don't remember how I got out. All I remember is stumbling out the front door in my boxers and sprinting into the freezing night barefoot. I didn't stop until I was in my car, engine roaring, tires skidding on icy pavement as I tore out of the neighborhood. I never went back. The landlord was pissed, sent me angry emails. I didn't care. I paid the penalty, left most of my stuff behind and got the hell out. Took what I needed, burned the rest in my mind. Months later, on a random wake up at night, hearing a knock on my bedroom door. But I don't live alone anymore, and neither do they. My name's Daniel. I'm 18, fresh out of high school and supposed to be thinking about college apps and future plans. That's what normal kids do, right? But something else has hijacked my mind lately. Something dark, something I can't shake. And now, I'm not sure I'll ever be able to move on. I live with my dad, Mark. It's just been the two of us since I was 6. That was when my mom disappeared. The official story? She left us. She found someone else, Danny. Dad told me when I was old enough to ask. One day she packed her bags and left. No warning, no goodbye, just a phone call. Said she wasn't coming back. And I believed him. Why wouldn't I? I was just a kid, but the older I got, the more that version of the story started to feel off. She never called me? I remember asking once. Dad just shook his head, eyes fixed on the floor. No, not once. But why? His jaw tightened. Some people don't have it in them to be parents, son. I know it's hard to understand, but she made her choice. She moved on. So did we. That was the end of it. Or, it was supposed to be. This summer, Dad planned a 2-week trip with his girlfriend Lisa, their first vacation together. You sure you'll be okay here alone? He asked as he zipped up his duffel. I rolled my eyes. Dad, I'm not 12. I'll be fine. He chuckled, ruffling my hair like he used to. All right. Just don't burn the house down, and maybe go outside once in a while, huh? Meet some people, live a little. Yeah, I'll think about it, I said, knowing full well I'd probably spend the next 2 weeks holed up in my room, gaming, ordering garbage food, maybe inviting a couple of friends over. And that's exactly what I did. For the first few days, it was great. Some friends came by, we stayed up late, had a few drinks, watched horror flicks and cracked dumb jokes. But after they left, the house felt different. Not haunted, not creepy, just wrong. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It was pressing, like the walls were listening. Still, I brushed it off. I mean, come on. I was just alone for the first time in a while. My mind was bound to wander. But then the dream happened. It felt too real. I was standing in a room I didn't recognize, dark, smoky, and cold, and she was there. My mother. Her face was clearer than any memory I had of her. She was screaming, reaching out, eyes wild with terror. Behind her, something massive loomed. A eye, shadow, faceless and moving wrong, like it was glitching in and out of the world. I tried to move, to run to her, but my legs were frozen. And just as I was about to scream, she vanished. Not disappeared. Erased. Like she'd never existed at all. I shot up in bed, drenched in sweat, heart pounding against my ribs like it wanted out. It was just a nightmare, I told myself, a messed up dream. Maybe my subconscious was dragging up stuff I hadn't processed. I mean, it made sense. Alone in the house, memories sneaking in through the cracks. But then the morning came, and I found something that didn't belong, scattered across the living room floor. Photos, old faded photographs of my mom, some with her holding me as a baby, others just of her, smiling that soft, distant smile I only half remembered. Thing is, those pictures, I'd never seen them before. I hadn't seen those photos in years. Hell, I didn't even know we still had them. I just stood there, frozen, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Did Dad leave them out before he left? No, that didn't make any sense. I checked every door and window. Nothing was unlocked, no signs of a break-in. Maybe I was just losing it. Maybe the photos had always been tucked away in some drawer and I'd just forgotten. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. Something had changed in the air, like the house itself was holding its breath. That night, the dream returned. But this time, it was her voice I heard. Soft, almost like a whisper buried beneath static. Look in the attic, Danny. I jolted, awake, chest heaving. My room was dark, the silence pressing against me from all sides. I tried to shake it off. I wasn't the type to believe in ghosts or messages from beyond or any of that paranormal stuff. But something about her voice. It didn't feel like a dream. It felt like a warning. The attic had always been one of those unspoken no-go zones, not locked or forbidden or anything. We just never went up there. Like it didn't exist. I grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen drawer, the old one we kept for blackouts, and pulled down the rickety attic ladder. The hinges creaked as I climbed into the thick, musty air. Dust danced in the flashlight beam like tiny spirits. Boxes, stacked to the ceiling, old Christmas decorations, broken furniture. It all looked like only gamers understand. He was deep into a ranked match, cursing under his breath at his teammates when it came again. A dull thud, followed by the distinct sound of something dragging or shifting, like furniture being slowly scraped across wood. Daniel stiffened. Headset off. Chair squeaking slightly as he turned toward the open door. The hallway was dimly lit, stretching out like a throat, the walls shadowed and still. "Hello?" he called out, voice barely above a whisper. No answer. He stood, ears straining. Was someone upstairs with him? He slowly made his way down the hall, checking the bathroom, then the storage room, still filled with old DVDs, gym equipment he never used, and dusty moving boxes. Everything looked normal. He paused outside the last room, the empty one, and touched the doorknob but didn't turn it. Something about that room always made his skin crawl. Instead, he went downstairs, checked every lock on the doors and windows. They were all secure, even the back door with the tricky latch. Paranoid idiot, he muttered to himself. Back upstairs, he left the game room door open this time. 20 minutes later, as he leaned back in his chair after another brutal match, something shifted in the hallway. A figure, not a full glimpse, just a flicker of movement, a shadow passing the doorway like someone walking by. Daniel's breath caught. Every hair on his arms lifted. He spun his chair toward the door, heart hammering. Nothing. Just the hallway, empty. But he knew he'd seen something. He grabbed the nearest object, a heavy metal desk lamp, and crept into the hallway. His pulse thundered in his ears. Each step was slow, deliberate. The hardwood creaked underfoot. He checked his bedroom, then the bathroom again. Nothing. Then came the storage room. Still, dusty, boxes in place. But when he reached the final door, the empty room, he hesitated. He hadn't opened it in months. He flicked the light switch on before entering. The bulb overhead buzzed to life, casting a sterile white glow across bare wooden floors and beige walls. The room was empty, except the closet door. It was closed. Daniel's blood chilled. He remembered it being open. Weeks ago, he'd left it that way when checking on a leak in the ceiling. He never shut it. Gripping the lamp like a weapon, he stepped forward. The closet handle felt cold in his hand. He turned it slowly. The door creaked open, inch by inch, revealing darkness. Nothing. Just coats, old boots, a broken vacuum. He exhaled, breath shaky. But as he turned to leave, something moved behind the coats. He froze. His hand tightened around the lamp, and he jerked the coats aside. Nothing. Not that night. But over the next few days, Daniel couldn't shake it. That feeling of being watched. He kept telling himself it was just stress. Work had been hell lately, and his sleep schedule was a mess. Maybe it was all catching up to him. Maybe that's why things felt off. But then the little things started. The coffee mug he always left beside the sink would end up in the cupboard. A spoon moved an inch to the left. Doors he'd swear he closed would be open by morning. Lights flicked on in rooms he hadn't entered. Once at 3 a.m., he jolted awake to the sound of something shifting inside the walls. A slow, crawling scrape, like nails dragging behind the drywall. The house, the place that had once been his escape, started to feel like it was swallowing him. Daniel started avoiding the 2 unused rooms completely. Their doors stayed locked now, or as locked as those flimsy handles allowed. He would pass them quickly in the hallway, refusing to glance inside, like a child afraid of the dark. But that dread, the pull, only deepened. And then, one night, it came back. He was headed to the bathroom, groggy, when he caught it in the corner of his eye, just past the glow of the hallway light. A figure, tall, thin, unmoving, standing at the far end of the corridor near the empty room. Daniel froze, his breath hitched in his throat. Before he could say anything, it slipped sideways, silently, into the empty room. This time, he didn't hesitate. He grabbed his phone, thumb trembling as he flicked on the flashlight, and followed. His bare feet were silent on the wooden floor. The door to the room stood slightly ajar. He pushed it open. The air inside was wrong. Colder, heavier. It smelled like damp wood and something else, something old, moldy, forgotten. His flashlight flickered. Then, whisper, right behind him, low, raspy. Daniel. He spun around, breath ragged, heart clawing at his chest, but there was nothing, just the doorway, just silence. Then he saw it, the closet door, not shut, not fully open, hanging just slightly ajar, like someone had slipped in just out of sight. His fingers gripped the phone so tightly it hurt. With one sharp breath, he reached out and yanked the door open. Empty. Almost. On the floor sat a single piece of paper, curled at the corners, yellowed with age. Daniel bent down, picked it up with shaking hands, and unfolded it. 3 words. See you? The handwriting was rough, frantic as if written in a hurry. Behind him, something scraped against the wall. He turned. Nothing. He barely slept that night. Every creak, every groan of the house felt alive, like something was aware of him, watching. Just as he began to drift into restless sleep, his bedroom door creaked open. Soft. Slow. Someone was in the room. He didn't breathe, didn't move. The next few days blurred together in a fog of panic and exhaustion. He barely left the house, installed deadbolts on every door, reinforced the windows, even set up makeshift alarms using old cans and string. But none of it helped. The feeling, that suffocating, predatory feeling, never left. Then, a few nights later, it all exploded. Daniel woke with a start, drenched in sweat. A bang. Loud. From downstairs. He sat up, pulse in his throat. Was it a dream? Then. Footsteps. Slow, measured, coming up the stairs. He grabbed his phone with trembling hands and dialed 911. The operator picked up quickly. 911, what's your emergency? There's someone in my house, he whispered. They're coming up the stairs. Stay where you are. Officers are on their way. Can you see the intruder? He wanted to look, but he couldn't. He was frozen. The footsteps stopped, right outside his door. He held his breath. Then, the doorknob turned. Daniel threw himself at the door, shoving it closed with his full weight. Whoever was on the other side pushed back, hard. He screamed into the phone. He's trying to get in. A beat of silence, then sirens, distant, wailing through the neighborhood. Whoever it was, they stopped. The pressure vanished. By the time the police arrived, the front door was hanging, wide open, but no one was inside. They searched every inch, upstairs, downstairs, every room. In the empty one, they found signs, a sleeping bag, food wrappers, and something worse, a journal. One of the officers flipped through it, his brow furrowed. Looks like someone's been living here for a while. Daniel took the journal in his hands, trembling. The pages were filled with scattered entries, some just single sentences. The last entry was written just days earlier. He doesn't know I watch him sleep. He moved out within the week and didn't bother selling, just left. The new owners renovated the place, new drywall, new locks, fresh paint over everything. But Daniel never looked back. Now, wherever he lives, no matter how safe it feels, he checks every closet, every crawl space, every room that's supposed to be empty, because he knows now. Sometimes, you're never truly alone. It had been another one of those quiet nights. My roommate Derek was out doing his usual, partying till sunrise, probably passed out somewhere by now. I didn't mind. Honestly, I preferred it this way. Having the whole place to myself gave me a weird kind of comfort, like I could finally breathe without the noise and chaos he brought into the house. The night air had that crisp fall bite to it, and the neighborhood was unusually still, not a single car passing, No voices echoing from down the block, just the occasional rustle of dry leaves. I grabbed a couple of beers from the fridge, slipped on an old hoodie, and headed out to the front porch. We had this beat-up wooden swing. Derek's uncle gave us. It groaned like a dying animal every time it moved, but it was perfect for nights like this. I cracked open a beer and leaned back, letting the swing rock me gently. It was close to midnight. That thin, fragile kind of silence had settled in. The kind that makes you hyper-aware of your own breathing. I was halfway through my second beer when I noticed someone walking down the street. At first, I didn't think much of it. Late-night walkers weren't unheard of. But the longer I watched, the more I realized something felt off. He moved strange, too stiff. His arms just dangled at his sides, totally lifeless, while his legs moved in slow, even strides, almost mechanical. He wore a dark hoodie, the hood pulled tight over his head. The streetlights didn't do much to show his face, just cast weird shadows where his features should have been. When he got to the part of the street directly in front of my house, he stopped. Didn't fidget, didn't check his phone, just stopped and turned his head, looking straight at me. I shifted in my seat, suddenly aware of how alone I really was. I tightened my grip on the can in my hand. "Hey, buddy," I called out. "You need something?" No response. Just stood there. A few more seconds passed. I thought maybe he was lost or drunk or just weird. But then he turned and started walking, no, gliding up my driveway. My gut twisted. I stood up from the swing, my legs already tense like they were ready to bolt. My heart started tapping faster against my ribs. "Hey man, this is private property," I said, trying to sound firm, but it came out shaky. "You need to leave." Still nothing. He just kept coming. I backed up slowly toward the front door, my hand fumbling behind me until it found the doorknob. I was half inside when I yelled again, louder this time, "Get the hell out of here!" No reaction. He didn't even flinch. Panic surged up my spine as I yanked the door open and slammed it behind me, locking it with trembling fingers. I leaned against it, every breath I took feeling like it might not be enough. Then, thud. A dull, heavy knock. Right against the door. He was there. I scrambled to the peephole and looked out. His face, or what little I could see of it, was pale and expressionless like a wax figure left out in the sun too long. His head tilted slightly, almost like he was listening to something I couldn't hear. Then he reached under his hoodie. I froze. Was it a gun? A knife? I squinted through the peephole, my heart thundering in my ears. He pulled out something. I couldn't make it out clearly, but it caught the porch light just enough. Metal. A hammer, maybe a crowbar. My blood turned to ice. I stumbled backward from the door and sprinted upstairs, nearly tripping over the rug in the hallway. My phone was on my nightstand. I grabbed it and fumbled through the lock screen with shaking fingers. 7. The ring felt like it lasted forever. 1. What's your emergency? There's someone at my house, I gasped. He just walked up my driveway and now he's trying to break in. He's got a weapon. Stay on the line with me. Are your doors locked? Yes, but I think he's about to. Crack. The sound was sharp, raw, like the house itself had cried out. Wood splintered. My stomach dropped. He was breaking in. I stifled a curse and bolted into my bedroom, locking the door behind me as the operator's voice echoed through the phone, trying to keep me calm, but I could barely hear her over the pounding of my heart. And downstairs, the silence was gone, replaced with footsteps. Slow, heavy. Coming up. My breathing was all over the place, shallow and ragged, and my palms were slick with sweat as I clutched the phone like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. The front door just broke, I whispered into the receiver, barely able to get the words out. My voice shook. Please hurry. We have officers on the way, the dispatcher said, her voice calm but urgent. Stay where you are and do not engage. Do you hear me? I didn't answer. I was already pressing my ear to the bedroom door. Silence. Then, tap, tap, tabon. Slow, deliberate footsteps on the wooden floor below. He was inside. My whole body went rigid, breath caught in my throat. The only sounds now were the creaks of the old floorboards beneath his weight and my own shaky exhales. I didn't dare move. I didn't even blink. The footsteps stopped. For one horrifying second, I wondered if maybe he'd turned around. Maybe he'd left. Maybe... Creak. The stairs. He was coming up. Terror seized my chest like a vice. I backed away from the door, my phone trembling in my hand. There was nothing in the room to defend myself with, just a lamp and some books. My only exit was the second-story window, but I'd probably break my legs if I jumped. I held my breath. Each step he took up the stairs dragged on like the ticking of a bomb. Then, nothing. He reached the top and stopped. The silence that followed was unbearable, like the whole world had been put on pause. Then, knock, knock. Soft. Right. On my door. I almost screamed. My legs gave out, and I dropped to the floor beside the bed, heart hammering so loudly it drowned out everything else. He knew I was in there. He was waiting. Seconds passed, like hours, my mind flipping through every possible outcome, and then... A car engine, tires on gravel, lights. Red and blue flashes danced across my window. The police. I didn't dare make a sound, not even when I heard the shouting from downstairs. Police! Drop it! Then, zap. The papinda crackling burst of a taser, and silence. I stayed on the floor, paralyzed, until a voice called out from just outside the room. LAPD! You're safe. You can come out now. I rose slowly, my knees unsteady. My fingers struggled with the lock, but I finally managed to open the door. 2 officers stood in the hallway, weapons still drawn. And lying just outside my room, sprawled, on the carpet was the man, unmoving. Later I found out he was drunk heavily, but something about that didn't sit right with me. The officers tried to question him, but he wouldn't talk. No name, no explanation, nothing. They searched his pockets and found a crumpled notepad. Every page was filled with messy, scattered scribbles, but a few of them, those were worse. My address, written over and over, dozens of times. That's when the cold hit me. This wasn't random. He had chosen me.